seems that envy is my sin.
Oh, what's in the box? What's in the fucking box?
What's up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of What's in the Box.
I'm your host, DeathMetalHero, and with me is longtime friend and comic book aficionado, and a man who probably knows newsprint printing better than anybody else in the industry, Mr. Pete Simeti. How you doing, brother?
What's up? How's it going, Luke?
I'm doing good, man. I am super excited to have you come back and hang out. I've been looking forward to opening up King CRYPTID, and there's a lot of fun, exciting things you got going on that I can't wait to talk about tonight, man.
Hell yeah! I'm really looking forward to hearing your thoughts about the next or recent 5 issues, I should say, King CRYPTID 5 to 9.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I loved the first 4. You know, and I've been telling everybody about this, just the feel of those first 4 issues. You know, you obviously grew up reading comics and like the 80s era of Marvel. You know, that kind of golden era from the late 70s into the early 80s. That's the feel that I get from King CRYPTID. You know, that genuine love for the medium, that genuine love for the storytelling, and, you know, trying to make it accessible for everybody. You know, giving something for everybody in the issues. I think it's fantastic, man. It really is one of the best independent books that's being produced right now, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, you nailed it. That's really where I'm drawing a lot of influence and inspiration, especially in terms of how to tell a story through a comic.
Yeah.
It's a lot of like that late 70s to late 80s kind of wheelhouse.
And it shines through, man. It really does. And it adds just a timeless feel to the stories and an accessibility that I think is sorely lacking in a lot of things that are put out right now, especially stuff that is generally referred to as all ages. You know, a lot of all ages stuff I kind of feel like is either, you know, very much talking down to kids because they think all ages means, oh, I gotta you know, talk to kids and I've got to use, you know, very simple language, or it just, you know, it completely misses the point of all ages. You know, and I think that there's a lot of accessibility here, a lot of fun, adventure. You know, you can get lost in the stories. You know, I feel like that's something that we need in comics. You know, sorely.
Oh yeah, we definitely do. That's the funny part is like you said, King CRYPTID pretty much is all ages. Like if you look back and look at comics from the 80s or the 90s, or, you know, especially from the big 2, King CRYPTID would fall right in that category of storytelling style and the age of the audience. But
100%.
yeah, something happened along the way where like all ages got so just destroyed as a marketing term.
Yeah.
And stuff got dumbed down or turned silly. And if it wasn't that way, overly simplified, like there was a big overcorrection, I think, because we lost a whole generation or so because they kind of left him in the lurch. You know, they started really going more towards the older collector and thinking that the younger audience was going towards video games and whatever else. And that was such a wrong move. And there was that overcorrection, much like everything else nowadays is such an overcorrection to kind of get back like the younger audience. And it turned into really making these poorly written and developed kind of stories and characters. And that's the worst thing you really could do, because that's what made comics so great for such a long time, was they were so accessible for everybody. So you could be, you know, 9 years old reading a comic, or you could be 29 years old or 59 years old, and they didn't really dumb down the characterization. The themes were still there. You know, there's some serious stuff in there, and they still wanted to hit those emotional notes. And that's the kind of stuff that speaks to all sorts of people, regardless of age or race or gender or anything. And that's what made comics so great. But
agree.
that's really what I'm trying to tap into with King CRYPTID, to make that really accessible story that doesn't necessarily push the bounds of taste, maybe in terms of like violence or language or sexuality or whatever else. It's just a good, solid story with characters that are in there and they've got their motivations and they're going to develop over time, and the story is fast paced, but the development breathes. And that's the
Yes.
difference. Like the development is kind of decompressed. Like you got to have characters go through things, but the pacing and the narrative is not decompressed. And that's
Yeah.
where I feel like that's where comics were in a sweet spot.
I agree. You know, a lot of the storytelling these days, it kind of feels like they've got to get all this stuff out of the way real quick, and it really feels rushed. You know, like a lot of backstory, a lot of detail or whatever, and it feels rushed, and then so they can tell this other part of the story. But that feeling of rush at the beginning, it carries over to the rest of the story, and then the rest of the story kind of feels rushed, and you kind of feel like you're being shuffled along through the story as opposed to experiencing the story, enjoying that story. I love the way the stories in King Cryptid just kind of unfold. You know, they naturally unfold. They have a rhythm to them, and I like I said, I feel like that really lends itself to the accessibility. You know, you don't feel like you're being shotgunned through the story. You feel like you're being taken on an adventure, and you know that was the fun part about comics. You know, you're going on an adventure with these characters. You wanna enjoy the ride as opposed to just, you know, okay, here's you bought your ticket, here's your ride, now get out. You know,
Yeah, exactly. You know, things need to happen just like in life, more or less. Things need to happen because something preceded those events. You
yeah,
know, so if you have characters that want to do something or characters that are doing something, whatever that may be, is because of what came before it.
yes,
It's not just because as a writer I said so. You know,
exactly.
even though it's like, yeah, that's kind of how it goes, but that's not how it should feel. It doesn't make sense to have that happen.
No,
So everything that happens within the series is because there is something that character wants to either accomplish or obtain,
mm,
or stop someone else from accomplishing or obtaining. And
yeah,
that's just simple storytelling, really.
yeah,
But yeah, once you get into the realm of everything sort of just feels like because the writer said so.
yeah,
Um, and there really isn't like a logical motive. The reactions are kind of either canned or false.
yes.
That's when it
Oh
kind of
man,
is just like this weird jilted experience, and it doesn't really resonate. And that's for me, that's not fun to write a story that way. So
mm.
I would really have to kind of try hard to write a story that way. But it's
don't keep telling stories the way you've been telling, man, because
yeah,
that
I love that, you know,
ruins the immersion.
yeah, like you know, in issue 5, for instance, for those that have read it or those that haven't, I won't spoil it. But you know, there's a character or characters, I should say, that based off of the events that just happened in issue 4, they're off going to a place to figure something out because of what they found in issue 4. Now, you don't have to read issue 4. It gets
Mhm.
you caught up immediately within the first 2 pages as to why they're there, what they're doing, all that kind of stuff, which is something also that used to happen in comics too before
Yes.
they decided, you know, just put a paragraph or two to get you caught up, you know, instead of drawing out a page and having a conversation or
Yeah.
having a character think about the previous events. So, you know, these characters are off to do that. And because they're off to do that, they're getting other characters involved. And then those other characters have to react to what is occurring and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
It's just a very simple kind of way of doing it without having it feel so ham-fisted where like, here's characters and they're doing things and saying things and that's that. And, you know, you just buy it, just read it. And
Yeah.
that's horrible.
It's not a fun experience, you know. The like I 100% agree. The ham-fisted way that some of these stories are put together, and you know, this character is here doing this, and this character is here doing that, but there's no real explanation or motivation as to why they're doing it. It's just because this has to happen.
Yeah, like they've
Uh,
just like formed in the space because the writer called upon them, you know, and
yeah.
that feels weird.
Well, it feels unnatural, and it takes you out of the immersion. And you know, going back to what you said about the way comics used to touch on the last issue, but were self-contained. You know, I feel like them not doing like an in-comic recap. It takes away some of the interaction with the reader. You know, it takes away some of the building of the immersion, because if you give that setup, that kind of gives like a, I don't know, it's like a preamble before they get immersed in the actual issue, and then they can get settled in with that story that's being told.
See, what I never understood too, because you could still do it that way, even though it's boring. You could still have like a character that's like an overseer, or, you know, for one of the companies, a character that's a watcher.
Yeah.
And they go in there and they're the ones that say, you know, hello, you know, this is what occurred before, you know, the events that occurred before, and this is what's happening now, you know. And you can still have it like a comic, instead of it being like this thing that feels like, you know, some anonymous narrator being like, you know, previously on this issue or whatever. And so right off the bat, it feels like, you know, who's this? Who's talking to me? Who's saying this? Who wrote this?
Right.
You know, so right away you're right alongside the writer, as opposed to being immersed with the characters. You know, so I don't know who came up with like the let's just slam the brakes immediately before we begin, and turn around into the back seat and be like, now kids, last time this is what happened.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
well, they
just go on the trip. That's why
kind of immediately puts up like a wall of separation between the reader and the characters, and that you don't want to do that. You want the reader to feel like they're right there with the characters. They want them to feel like they're on that adventure with the characters.
Yeah, like, I mean, even when shows do it on TV, when they have like a previously, they might just tell you previously, right? But then they show you the clips of what makes sense to get you caught up on the episode that's about to happen.
Right.
They don't have like someone like a blank screen or whatever, and just someone reading. So last episode, Bobby went to the store, and you know, it's not like that. Like they catch you up based on stuff that happened and show you.
They show you clips and stuff to immerse you in.
You the way the medium communicates.
Yeah.
It's so strange that I don't know who decided in comics to do that. But we have a lot of it, especially in the mainstream.
I think it's due to time constraints, possibly budget constraints, and possibly a little bit of laziness. You know,
oh, it's just awful.
It is. But speaking of watchers, you know, the good kind, because we've got a chat over here, and let's go ahead and say hi to everybody. We got Omen Screaming Raven. Hail, my friends. Good to see you, Omen. Welcome, sir. And we got my lovely lady, Skull Gorgeous. She is currently hanging out with her kiddo and her ex, watching Deadpool Wolverine, but she's still in the chat. She says, hey, Pete.
Hello.
We got Edwin Acevedo. What's up, Edwin? Good to see you, sir. Thank you for coming to hang out. We got Mr. Matt LaRock. He says, yo, yo. He also says, King Cryptid has a great tone to the writing. It's fun. I love the old school feel.
Oh, thank you, man. Appreciate that.
And he also agrees all ages equals watered down storytelling. Yep, that's how it is now. It is unfortunate, but you are doing something completely different. You're actually taking people on an adventure, and it's accessible to anybody. You know, like Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings is an all ages book. There's some serious stuff that happens in Lord of the Rings, but anybody can read it. You know, kids can read it, adults can read it. You know, everyone. I mean, even The Hobbit and the Chronicles of Narnia. You know, even as an adult, I still love the Chronicles of Narnia. I feel like they're still well written. I still feel like they're an enjoyable story to read. You know, I don't feel like, I don't feel like I'm reading a kid's book. You know, I feel like it's something that, you know, is actually entertaining and can still be, you know, for everyone.
That's the thing too, is you need to have dark elements in fiction, not just for adults but for kids. You need to have that. You need to have this thing that someone is in peril, something is at stake, you know. Agreed. And there's so many aspects of fiction, especially what we would kind of call, I guess, escapist fiction, that really helps you to deal better with the real world when the story's done right, you know. And especially for little kids, it's, if anything, it's doing them a disservice as a storyteller to really shy away from darker elements in the story. Because it's a great moment to kind of give them perspective, give them strength, give them some kind of understanding
Give them
of,
context on the world.
because they're dealing with so much and everything is new to them.
Mm-hmm.
And you really do have a responsibility as a storyteller when you're writing stuff that is for kids too. Not just for kids, but also for kids. And I think that's kind of, maybe we shy away from that nowadays. Maybe that responsibility scares us and we just think like, just get silly with it, be really stupid with it, keep it light. Everyone, no one's really, there's no real conflict. Nothing's really at stake. There's a lot of like passive aggressive stuff in kids content nowadays,
right?
Because no one really deals with their emotions. And to portray a character lashing out is like, they don't know how to deal with that.
It's almost taboo now.
Yeah. And so everyone is kind of like contained and passive aggressive, and really like everything is like this inward kind of just absorbing the slight evil of the world or whatever that comes their way. And if they even have that in there,
right.
And it's just a shame. Like, kids need to see, if they don't see it in real life, which I hope they do, and would have like a role model, parents or whatever, teachers or something, whoever they're exposed to in that capacity, to be like a see just little moments of humanistic heroism. They need to see that at least in fiction being portrayed. And if you can't portray that, though, if there's nothing that's counter that.
Yeah. I forget who said it, but there's a quote about children need to know that they're need to see dragons being confronted, not just so that they know that there are dragons in the world, but know that they can be conquered. Basically saying, you got to give them that example. You got to show that there is darkness in the world, but that it can be overcome. That the light can shine through, that it's not hopeless. And if you shy away from that, you do them a disservice. You do everybody a disservice. It's disingenuous storytelling, in my opinion.
Yeah,
you've got to. I mean, part of being a storyteller is to go into that darkness and expose it, take the light in, and show people.
I think that's why too, especially in comic storytelling, a lot of the time the villain would be so strong. Like, all I could think of is up. You can't see it, but up there I have like that X-Men #1 Jim Lee, the special edition that folds out, right?
The gatefold.
And all of these heroes, very, very strong, very capable, but they're all after one dude. Magneto. And like, you get Cyclops blasting at him and he's still got his force field up, and Magneto literally doesn't even engage them. He's looking at the viewer and basically being like, I'm powerful, but everybody else is really like, we have to stop this guy. Like, it's a very, and you can get like a metaphor right there from the fact that like that evil is very powerful, but it requires all of us to work together to defeat it. And that's something that storytelling is great at as well, because there's a lot of things in life you go through, whether it's not always as dead on as like a supervillain, but like, you need the help of others. You need to know how to work with others. You need to know how to get along with others. You need to know how to appreciate others, even if they're different from you, to work together to accomplish and achieve something. And especially if you're in a tough spot. So like, that's what's so great with that metaphor for superhero comics, because you always have these supervillains that are just, they'll wipe out everything, and you can't just defeat them on your own. You need help.
And team up books. That's why team up books were always so epic. This great big bad evil, and you get these two superheroes that may not necessarily work. They may work by themselves often, or you'll get two teams that don't really pair up, but then they pair up, and it's this epic adventure. Like you said, it shows that working with others and being able to communicate is a good thing. There's a lot of moral lessons that can be can be portrayed in storytelling like that. And again, it seems like it's kind of missing. There's a lot of grandstanding and talking, but a lot of a distinct lack of showing things getting done, and more talking than anything else.
There's a lot of telling nowadays.
A lot of telling, no showing.
And not showing. And it's weird, because that's all you'll hear about in storytelling is, well, that's how you tell the story. You show, don't tell.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, the the counterpart to that is there's an awful lot of people doing the telling and not the showing, doing a lot of the words but not the actions.
Yeah.
You know.
And that does a disservice to the medium that is comics, because it's a visual medium. You have the perfect opportunity to show, not tell. So, you know, sometimes the panels that are silent are the most impactful, you know, because you get to see the characters doing things. You get to see these actions played out, as opposed to, oh, well, and then this happened and this, they did this. You know, that's not playing into comic strengths. That's kind of keeping it in a boot when it doesn't need to be in a boot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But speaking of fantastic storytelling, we're going to go ahead and open up King Cryptid. I've got my books right here. I'm going to go ahead and flip my camera if I set this up correctly. There we go. Let's see. Move this forward just a little. There we go. And
so you haven't opened it at all yet, huh?
I haven't opened it at all. Nope, I was waiting. Yep, that's what I like to do. I like to wait and have have the full unboxing experience. So let's see. Go ahead and cut the tape here. Oh, okay. It's
Your tape cutter is definitely more metal than mine. Mine's just a regular utility knife.
This was actually an anniversary gift from the beautiful and gorgeous flying feline. She knows me all too well. She saw the blue and the Damascus steel, and she's like, "Oh yeah, got to get that for him."
That's a hell of a letter opener.
It is. It's a fantastic letter opener. I love it. What's up, some person? He says he opens it and thousands of spiders skitter out. Don't you put that evil on me. No, don't you dare. Damn it. Hey, what's up, Michael Rushbrook? Good to see you, brother. Thank you for coming to hang out, man. All right, and here we go. I have been looking forward to this for a while, since I read the first 4 issues, and I am so stoked that I finally get to read these in person. Now, I know that you guys, well, actually, I don't know, but if in case you don't know, Pete is a purveyor of comics that are printed on newsprint, like they used to be back in the day, traditionally done with newsprint, which means they smell like old comics. Which, if you've ever gone into a comic shop and taken a big, deep breath, that's what you're gonna smell is newsprint. Just gonna open it up like this. I'm not gonna risk cutting the comics.
Look at that. I can't believe I packed it that well.
I can. You're a professional, man. You kidding me? Oh yeah.
All right.
Make sure there's nothing in there. Okay. Oh yes. So you have a campaign currently. Yes, sketch cover. Forgot I got that. I'm super excited about that too.
Oh yeah, so you got everything in the
yes.
Okay. Yeah.
See, because I missed the first campaign, and I wanted to make sure that I caught up. See, this is what I was just talking about. King Cryptid 10 through 13 is currently funding on Indiegogo. The link is in the description. Guys, jump on this book. Seriously, this is one of the best indie books that's being put out right now. Do not miss this. Come back here. All the good stuff. Little thank you card. Always love the thank you cards. Look at that. Look at that. Behemoth. Man, it does my heart good to see like the throwback to the old Marvel cards. Because I know that you've done a few streams where you showed off all your old cards. I've got mine way over there in binders. My dad and I used to go to the comic shop and we would buy boxes of cards, and we'd open them up and try to get the whole set plus the chase cards. And yeah, so I love these old school cards, man. It makes me happy.
Oh yeah, I love trading cards, especially when I was a kid with the comic cards, because it helped me make my buying decisions too. You know, for the comics. I got to know about more characters and
Oh, I mean,
really
I
get
learned
to,
about a lot of characters simply from the cards and like the
yeah,
little "Did you know?" or the little facts down at the bottom. Yeah.
yep.
Oh, that is sweet.
Yeah, and that's like a bonus card that's part of the King Cryptid series.
Oh, and a mini print. Look at that. Kier is so damn good. I love his line work.
Yeah, he's got some great stuff going on.
He really does, man. I could sit and stare at that for hours. And I probably will after this stream. Here we are. Here we are. So we got the sketch cover of number 1. Then there's the black and white cover of number 1.
Oh, they flip over too. Yeah, that's flip covers. So you get 2 covers for the cost of 1 comic instead of doing like a variant issue.
Right. Ah, I love it. And that one is signed. That is a great cover.
Yeah, I signed all the front covers for you. I signed all of those. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
There you go.
Love it. Absolutely love it, man. So for those not familiar, they used to do flip covers all the time. It is a time-honored tradition to have flip covers. So as I've told you, Pete does this old school with flip covers and printing on newsprint. And I'm not ashamed. I am going to pop one of these open. Okay, so you know how sometimes like smells will transport you back in time?
Yeah, yeah.
That whiff just took me back to like 1996, going over to my local comic shop, the one that I used to work in as a kid, and picking up like the newest issue of like Spider-Man or something like that, and then just opening it up and that whiff of newsprint and ink. I mean, that literally just lit up a bunch of stuff in the back of my brain, man. I fucking love that. I mean, it's a kinesthetic thing, it literally just lit up my brain. I love it.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I've got ones from we've been printing on newsprint since 2017, so I've got ones from like that first batch. And,
man,
they're smelling like the way newsprint ages.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
Means you're doing it right. So for those that are not familiar with King Cryptid, why don't you give them the elevator pitch of who King Cryptid is?
Sure. So King Cryptid was betrayed and cursed over 500 years ago, and he was turned into this creature, basically the one that you see before you. But he was far more feral and very intimidating looking, a monster of a man. He lost his humanity in the curse, and for about 100 or so years he was powerless to control this entity that has transformed him, and he was doing all kinds of things, killing and consuming all kinds of life, human and animal. Eventually he came upon a guy by the name of Black Moon, which is a Wampanoag shaman that recognized who this individual is, and he restored his humanity with this cosmic moonstone, which is what he has on his crown there. So his humanity restored, he's been this way now for about 400 or so years, and he's kind of just doing his thing, figuring out the world, figuring out his place in the world. Why is he an immortal? Why is he here? What is he doing? So he comes across a lot of different creatures, a lot of different monsters, both inhuman and human. He's mostly in the New England area. He resides in the White Mountains at this point. And in the White Mountains of New Hampshire, he's basically just tending to his corner of the world, trying to make it as good as he possibly can. And he's finding that there's a lot of stuff brewing right underneath his nose in terms of this really dark, black budget science merged with magic, and it's creating these twisted creatures. And there's a lot of experimentation going on. He's in the thick of the mystery right now. He's really figuring it out because so much is happening too much too soon, and he's getting the sense that something is going horribly wrong. So he's finding himself in the middle of a gigantic conflict, and he's going to soon realize that. And it's for not just not just his area of the world, not just humanity, the planet itself, and to some extent even the universe, the cosmos. Because we do right now, we're mostly in New England, but there's going to be a lot of stories to come with King Cryptid encountering life beyond this planet, and even leaving the planet for a couple of issues. So there's a lot of stuff going on in this series, but it's an episodic, ongoing series. So every single issue is relatively self-contained in terms of you get a complete story. So even though the stories connect, there's continuity. You get a lot from reading all of them. You can still jump in and read, let's say we're at issue 50 or something. We're doing 10 to 13 now. But, if we get to issue 50 one day, the way the series is set up, you don't need to have read 1 to 49. You can just read issue 50 if that appeals to you and enjoy the story that's there. There's editor's notes in the series too. So if you do come across something that is kind of telling you about the events that came before, you can jump to that issue, track it down, and read about what they're talking about or what had transpired. So like I said, there's a lot of stuff that happens within the series, but the storytelling is every issue tells a complete story. And I think that's a really important thing. As opposed to this thing where you feel like, well, if I didn't hit issue 1, I'm completely lost, so I might as well not read it. That's not how this story is told, but I do encourage you to try to read every single one of them because you get so much more out of it when you do that.
Yeah. Oh man, like reading them digitally, like I was saying backstage, reading them digitally is one thing, but having them in hand, Pete, these feel like an old school book. I love it, man.
Oh yeah.
Like the feel in hand is incredible. What's up, Shelby? He says this is Arizona. Everything smells like ash. That's unfortunate. Says howdy, chat, making dinner. Screaming Raymond says what? Newsprint pages? Yes, sir. All of our alternative books are newsprint.
Yes,
Pete's been doing it. I love it, man. Wow. It is just it really is that kinesthetic feeling that it's I mean, just the feel and the smell is transporting me back. And they're beautiful in person, man. They look great. I mean, the people like to complain, oh, newsprint, it'll be washed out. Nah, they still look good. They still look real good. And
there's a lot of misconceptions when it comes to modern newsprint, especially, and I think it's because no one else really does it.
Yeah.
And we've been told a lot in the comic industry about, newsprint. It can only look this way. It can only can't handle this kind of art. And it's weird because it hit me one day years ago. I was just being told off in some forum about,
what's up,
newsprint. And that, it can't handle the way the art looks today, right? And on that day was I got grocery store flyers. And I remember seeing in one of the grocery store flyers, it was on newsprint, and it was like they had some food, like they had pizza, they had hot dogs, they had hamburgers, whatever, and it was all there, like being advertised in that grocery store flyer. And I remember thinking how good all of that looked, how good and how well it printed. I'm thinking, like, if they can do that and have like photographic reproduction quality on newsprint, tell me they can't put comic book art on newsprint now?
I call BS on that.
Yeah. And that's kind of what really made me go, okay, I got to figure out, newsprint is everywhere. It's still one of the most widely used paper stocks, especially commercially.
Yeah.
I had to figure out, how do I get my comics on newsprint? And I've talked to a lot of printers, and I found a lot of people who will do it, but not a whole lot that have the proper setup. So most of them will have the ability to fold the page. Most of them will have the ability to just print newsprint.
Right.
Fewer of them have the ability to do the binding that's necessary. So have the staples on there,
right?
Trim it to size, put a different cover stock on there. So finding that type of printer was a little harder, but definitely nothing close to impossible. And it was kind of like this really great thing to find it, but also a real like bittersweet moment too, because it just made me feel like, why did comics abandon doing this?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't need to.
No.
That didn't need to happen. You could have still kept telling comics on newsprint.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so much that shifted in the industry when we went away from newsprint, because the biggest limitation of it obviously is it's a thinner paper stock, so you got to use less ink
Yeah.
coverage on there. But that's just an adjustment that the colorist would need to make.
Yeah.
And I think because they went to paper stocks that could hold more ink, that a lot of the workload shifted to the colorist.
Mm.
And
Yes.
so, and when we see that across the board with a lot of modern comics, that like the workload has shifted so much towards the colorist, whereas before it was a lot of, not just flats, but 2 or 3 tones, not just relatively, I'd hate to call it simple coloring or simplified coloring, but it was colored in a way that maximized not just the paper stock, but also the composition. So
Yeah.
you had these background colors that helped the foreground push.
Mm-hmm.
And all these different things were being utilized largely because of the somewhat limitations of newsprint.
Yeah.
Things have changed, so you don't have to really think about it as much now with newsprint because of the way things are printed.
Yeah.
But it's such a shame because, like, with one simple change, it really put comics in a different direction, where you would lose a lot of what made comics so dynamic in the coloring department.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of really good coloring now. It's very nice. It takes a lot of skill, but
Yeah.
it's lost a lot of that pop. It's lost a lot of those elements that there'd be so many pages where like you have a yellow background or a pink background, or you
Yeah.
use these emotional colors to
Yeah.
make things pop, and we've lost a lot of that because the mindset isn't there anymore to color things that way. So you have a lot of like this flattening out
Yeah.
of scenes because everything is being colored more like accurately in a way.
It's
But you
funny.
get a flatness there because of it.
They're trying to add more depth, but they're kind of flattening out the storytelling.
Yeah.
This type of I don't know, maybe a little more advanced flats type color. It adds more character to the book than some of the the super highfalutin digital colors. With all the different textures and stuff like that. Sometimes that stuff can be overwrought. This showcases the artwork, and a lot of, like you said, a lot of the coloring is beautiful. It's really pretty, but at the same time, it's supposed to serve the story. It's supposed to serve the artwork, not be the showcase.
Yeah, not like take it over. There's a lot of
Yeah.
color. I'm shocked sometimes at like, why'd you even bother having a penciler or an inker even come in? Because the coloring does so much of the work. It completely buries the line. You
Yes.
lose the contrast and the dynamics of the line work, and every single element of it has now been owned by the colorist. And it's a weird thing. And maybe some people like that. That's fine. And I know it takes a lot of skill to do that, but at the same time, I really enjoy like the art that we have in King Cryptid, where
Yeah.
there's more of like a harmony with the elements, where like they work
Yeah.
together. So the colors work with the line art. They don't overtake it.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's a harmony. There's it's a perfect amalgamation of the two. There's a balance between them. Both doing their job and one not overtaking the other.
Yeah.
Comics is alchemy. When done correctly. I mean, I keep coming back to this page. I absolutely love this page.
Oh yeah, it's a great page. Yeah.
Going after King Cryptid. Screaming Raven says, Peter, my good man, you officially have a new backer and fan. Yet again, I have to thank you, Metal, for making this happen. Well, I am glad to turn you on to some excellent comic books, man. Pete's one of the good ones, and you will be able to tell instantly, reading anything from Alterna, especially King Cryptid, that he loves this medium. He loves comics, and he loves good storytelling. So I hope you have a blast reading King Cryptid, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for putting out good books, man. There's we've talked about the industry quite a bit in our conversations, and yeah, there's a lot of stuff that could be better, could be different. And one of the things is there's a distinct lack of like good quality storytelling out there now. So thank you for putting out stuff that I want to read. You know.
Yeah, I mean, well, the worst thing I can do at this point is add to the steaming pile.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Give an alternative, if you will.
Yeah, and I'll let the reader decide if it belongs in the good pile or the steaming pile. But you know, I'm doing my best to not create something that I feel is part of the problem.
Yeah.
You know, I'm really trying to create not just, and everyone's always trying to build worlds, you know what I mean? And I get that, but I'm really trying to more build and put characters out into the world here that you really want to be on this journey with them. You know, because you can have the coolest plot, you can have the coolest setting, you know, you can even have great design for characters, but if you don't really enjoy your time, if like the villains, you don't love to hate them, if the heroes you're not like rooting for them, or when they're, you know, combined with other characters, you're getting to know who these people are. And you should be able to, like you get to know anybody else, you should be able to predict them in a way and how they would behave in a certain situation. And that's a good thing, because that shows that not only am I doing my job, but it shows that the characters are resonating. And that's such a difficult thing to do. But I feel like we sometimes try too hard as storytellers. I think we try so hard to do something that's like maybe original, to the point that it starts to feel alien. You know, so people behave a certain way because that's original to have them behave that way, but that doesn't really resonate and ring true, because that's not really how people behave. You know, so like there's only so many kinds of stories. It's like a Rubik's cube, you know, and there's only so many combinations you can make. And there's only that one golden, you know, kind of way to solve that puzzle. And so, you know, you get to have these fun making the combinations, and you can come up with some cool looking stuff. But again, it's just like in music, right? There's only so many notes. So, you know, if you start playing notes that make no melodic sense, is that really going to resonate? Maybe someone
is that going to
like
continue the song? Is that going to, you know, make people want to keep listening?
Yeah. Is that even music? You know what I mean? So you know, there's all kinds of combinations you can come up with. There's all kinds of things you could do, because you got notes, you got pacing, you got the beats and all that stuff. But you know, it really is. It's the same kind of concept with storytelling. And with comics, you got finite amount of pages, you got a finite space. You know, so you got to make sure that every panel counts. Everything that's on there is not to just be wasted, or to stroke your ego, or to be self-indulgent in the story. It's to serve the story, and that's to ultimately serve the reader. So
absolutely.
That's what I'm trying to do with every single issue, and so many of the guys at Alterna, that's what they're trying to do with theirs too.
Absolutely. And everything that I've read from you guys has been great. You know, you've cultivated a fantastic company of people that really care about their craft, care about the story that they're telling, and care about, you know, the book that they're putting out. And it does show through in each thing that I've picked up from you guys. You know, and that's why I always recommend Alternative to people. I was in my my LCS the other day, and I had asked if he had ever heard of you guys, and he was like, no. And I was like, well, you should check him out. And I told him about King Cryptid, because he likes horror type stuff. He likes, you know, creatures and cryptids and stuff like that. And I was like, dude, this book is right up your alley. You need to check it out. So so hopefully he'll reach out and pick up some stuff for the shop. Hi, what's up, Ash? Feline says her phone was stolen. Michael Rushbrook says a mutual friend of Peter and mine, Randall Bishop, introduced me to King Cryptid. The newsprint comics is just like you said. It takes me back to the comic shop as a kid. I love it.
Oh yeah, Randall's great. Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah. Randall's
So
actually the dude who pointed me in the right direction to find newsprint. Because I was looking up,
fantastic.
I thought that it went to the wayside because that's all everybody ever told me. And
Mhm.
I kept looking and talking to like offset printers at the time. This was years
Yeah.
ago. And I put out a call one day, I think it was on like Facebook, that if anyone knew anybody about, newsprint or whatever, could they just let me know, point me in the right direction? You didn't need to give me your guy or anything, but
Right.
and so he had sent me down the right path. He recommended a company to me, but he had told me that it's printed on web press. It's on a web press is different than an offset press.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, I always thought like web press, okay, they do like the newspapers and stuff like that, and that it was a different kind of system for comics still, that it wasn't the
Yeah.
same thing that the newspapers were being printed on.
Yeah.
So I did more research into web press. There's cold set, which is what we generally use. That's the kind of one that it'll rub off on your fingers and you can do silly putty or whatever you want to do with it.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
then there's
Yeah.
and then there's heat set, which is it's more expensive. It's like a premium way of printing on
Mhm.
newsprint. The ink won't rub off on your fingers. You can't silly putty it. And now I guess there's a third way, which is what I'm doing with the in-house printing. So it's kind of interesting because it's like the best of both worlds. You get
Yeah.
the affordability of the cold set web press, but with the idea that the ink won't get on your fingers. I've got like a higher end newsprint that I'm printing on, so it's like a higher grade that is acid free, and I'm using
Oh,
archival
all
ink
right.
with mine.
Yeah.
So it's like a step up of what we've been doing previously with the commercial printer. And the stuff is looking fantastic. It's looking better than what we were doing with the commercial printer. So it's the only drawback, obviously, is other than I have to like assemble the books, which isn't really a drawback. I like doing that kind of stuff.
Right.
It's the time factor, though, of course, because with a commercial printer, they could spit out thousands of copies, in an hour. And
Right.
with me, I could do maybe 50 copies in an hour.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it's okay though, as an indie guy, I don't need necessarily thousands of copies in an hour.
Right. And you can control the print runs.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's a perfect
Yeah.
segue to bring up the campaign you've currently got going on Fund My Comic. So you were talking about in-house printing. So tell people exactly what this new endeavor is that you got going on, my friend, because this is exciting.
Yeah, so this is basically like I'm building like an indie comic newsprint print shop.
Yeah.
It's very similar to like the Model T, where you could get it in any color you want as long as it's black. This is like I'll print any comic you want as long as it's on newsprint.
Right.
And so it's between 8 to 48 pages for a book. It's saddle stitch, which is stapled spine, and it's newsprint interior with a gloss cover. It literally will look just like the books that you just received today, only
So
better.
awesome.
Which is it's crazy to say, but it'll look better because there is a quality control that I can maintain. I can
Mhm.
have color consistency across the board with prints. There's no misregistrations. Sometimes it would be really infuriating with like the ink coverage would be less on some pages and more on others, because it's an imperfect system that's built for speed with commercial
Right.
newsprint printing. But here it's built for quality, so there's speed there. That's definitely much faster than it would have been like 5 years ago to do this. And
Sure.
it's economical now to do it too. But it's not as fast as like the commercial way of doing it. I'm outsourcing the cover printing to a printer that's about an hour from me. It's a commercial printer that's going to do the covers. So the covers are going to look fantastic. It's cheaper for them
Awesome.
to do it than it is for me to do it here. And
Right.
it means that I don't have to purchase another machine and the paper stock that goes with it. So that's a
Right.
consistent, considerable savings too.
That's
but
awesome.
the interiors, I'm going to be printing all the interiors here, and I actually have a bunch of stuff to even show because I have the two printers that I've been using. So I think people are going to be floored by the fact that this stuff looks the way it does. There's a lot of examples on the Fund My Comic page of what it
Yeah.
looks like. There's a price table there too, so you can get an idea. If you're an indie creator, you're going to notice that these prices are probably like half than what you've been seeing from other printers.
Yeah.
You know, so and these comics are going to look awesome. They're not going to look like that like digital print on demand kind of books that don't have a nice flop to them, or
Right.
that they don't lay flat. You know, you ever get like there's a lot of these print on demand type books where it bows out at the spine.
Yeah.
You know, and then you put them in a short box or a long box or whatever, and like the box, like you got to alternate the spines because
Yes.
you know, the box will be like shifting. And then it's also a pain in the ass too, because if you're a creator that does conventions and you put them on the table, you also have to alternate them every like 5 or 10 or whatever.
Otherwise, they'll spill off
Otherwise,
this way.
they'll spill and cascade. You know.
Yep.
These won't do that. These will stay flat. Like I got
That's
2 examples
awesome.
of books here. Like they'll stay flat.
Let's see. Let me go ahead and make
Yeah.
you big there. See, look at that. That is
And
awesome. Yeah, show those off.
These are like test copies that I printed out. I got the covers just for mock cover purposes. I got them printed at Staples, and you could tell because issue 7 here. I had a really bad time at Staples doing this. The person wasn't helpful,
Oh,
but I wanted to get out of there, right? Because they printed them wrong. They printed the inside upside down. But it kind of shows that at least like this is not the commercially printed version. This is the test copy version that was you know, done over there.
Yeah.
But you can see the interiors look fantastic with black and white.
Beautiful. Yep.
And
see, Screaming Raven says those are beautiful.
you know, you can
Man, look
see
at the
all
quality.
the detail. on
So
the print.
crisp. That is fantastic, man.
Like the text prints remarkably crisp.
Yeah.
Right. And then even you know, nice big pages like this.
Oh, that's great. Man, there's zero loss of detail. It is
zero.
beautiful, man. Wow.
You know, so they look fantastic, but then in color they look great too. So here's Blood Realm, and again, it's an upside down inside cover. So this is not
another great book.
It's not the commercially printed one, but
right.
You know, you can see this is us printing on the newsprint in house.
Oh wow, man.
And I would say that this paper stock is kind of like a cross between the early Dark Horse and Valiant books.
Ooh, nice.
And,
okay, yeah.
Little bit of like Baxter paper
Mm-hmm.
in terms of like the sturdiness and the way the ink sits.
Right.
And then whatever Marvel was using in the early 90s. So it's got like a nice hybrid between all of that.
That's fantastic. So it feels a little more sturdy. It doesn't feel like, you know, super thin newsprint, but man, look at the detail. Even on like the Zipitone shading, man.
Yeah.
That is great. Rushbrook says looks amazing. Heck yeah.
You know, like this is and this is Blood Realm, this series here by Robert Geronimo.
Yeah. I've actually had him on for a new book, Who Dis. Guys, go check out the channel and go watch that one. That was a fun episode.
And I make so we're doing minis and full size, you know, so those are the 2 sizes we offer on the campaign. The minis are 5 by 7.5, and the full size are 6.625 by 10.25.
Yeah,
but these are mini replicas of King Cryptid 1 and 2.
Those are cool.
So these are literally like
they're the size of an old school ash can.
Yeah.
Oh, that is rad.
You know, there's a page to spread you were liking.
Yeah.
And again, like look at the detail. These were printed in-house.
Even at that size, the detail is still there. Look at the colors too. Great. That's beautiful stuff, man.
You know, so there's a lot of great stuff, and just even the different hues of the colors and things like that, it pops.
Well, and the subtlety still comes through. You know, the subtleties and the colors still come through. Michael Rushbrook says, damn, maybe I should print a future one-shot comic in newsprint.
Yeah.
Yes, you should.
You know, I think it's like $50 or something. You could get like 25 copies of like a 24-page book or something like that. I forget what all the pricing is on the site, but it's very affordable. You know, so we do 200 copies or less for for other people. I'll be printing more for Alterna as we need it.
Yeah.
But if you're someone who prints a lot of copies, you can do a limited edition version on newsprint, so you can still kind of have newsprint incorporated into your book and your campaign. But if you're someone who needs 200 or less, that's what this is designed for. Is designed for the indie creator, that the vast majority of which need like 200 or less.
Right.
And it's going to be a considerable savings compared to, maybe going with the next guy. And you can get it on newsprint, which no one else can give you for 200 copies. Most newsprint printers won't even bother with 2,000 or less. So here is a sampler. This is the mini sampler. So
love it.
These are available too on the campaign, and they'll have information about the files, the formatting, a price list there, what to do with pre-press and what we do with proofs and the turnaround time and all that kind of stuff. But with these mini samplers, there's a page from each Alterna book, just so you can get an idea of how it prints.
Right.
So if you're like, oh, my comic is closer to Mr. Crypt, it's a little more cartoony, that's what it would look like. Okay. If it's more painterly, you could look at Blood Realm. If it's black and white, you could check out that sample there of King Cryptid. If it's more traditional, you got Tinseltown there. So you can see all these different kinds of examples of how the art prints on the page.
Yeah. Proving that newsprint isn't just for one specific type of comic. It's for all types of comics.
Yeah, it's a very versatile paper stock, So
so
that's what all this does. But so these minis are, and the full size sampler too is on the campaign as well, for people that want to maybe get that and see, what's it all about. But we also have a $25 option where you can get your own comic, one copy of it, basically a proof copy, one copy of it in full size, one copy of it in mini, and that's $25. Normally a proof would be $25 each. So you could get just one copy of your comic if you want, and you would get it in the full size and in the standard and the mini, and do with that what you will, whether you want to see how it would look like on a print run, or whether you want to maybe have that as a one-off, or you want to keep it just to be like, oh, hey, I got my book, printed on newsprint.
Right.
But they're coming out fantastic. And these pictures are just to show too that the books lay flat.
Yeah.
There isn't any kind of like that crazy bowing out of the spine.
Yeah, I've had more than a few crowdfunded books that showed up, and you kind of like have to press them and hold them, and they still kind of spring back up, just because I'm guessing it's because of the way that they're printed and the way the paper is folded. It's not folded enough or something like that. I'm not exactly sure.
There's probably a combination of reasons. So so the paper process, you need to print it, then you need to fold each sheet individually, and then you got to assemble them, put them together, and then you would staple them with the cover, and then trim them. Also, something else with a lot of the print on demand type digital printers, doesn't really happen with digital offset, because usually they're using the right paper stock and it's more similar to a traditional style offset printing. But a lot of the time with print on demand printers, they're using like copy machines and good quality printers, but they're getting paper that is maybe not necessarily built for book binding. So it's not a short grain. They're doing like a long grain printing. And the best way I could explain that is, so if the paper wants to, you take a piece of paper and you fold it to each other, and whatever you feel more resistance, that's not what it is. So like this, there's less resistance when I do it like this, than when I do it like this. If there was less resistance this way, that's long grain when it runs across from the longest side. If it was less resistance like this, then it's short grain. Short grain is ideally what you would want, and that's what we have for like the bigger paper stocks, especially for the comics. So it bends real nice and easy, which means it's going to be a good folding experience. It's going to lay flat. But if you fold it the other way, there's going to be a little bit more resistance. So you really, really have to make sure you're folding that page correctly. And a lot of times they don't do that. Yeah, so a lot of the times the printers don't do that because it's like a cost saving / time saving thing
Sure.
where they'll put the pages together. And now if you think about, you take like, so for a 32-page comic, there's 8 sheets of paper,
Right.
and you have 1, 2, and then 3, 4. You have 4 impressions per page per sheet. So if you take 8 sheets of paper and you fold it all at once, it's going to be a very different fold on there as opposed to folding each sheet individually and then putting them together. But if you have the wrong paper stock in particular, and you got a long grain paper stock and you're folding it that way, you're really going to have that springiness.
Yeah.
And the only way to get rid of it, which is what I had to do with a print-on-demand printer when they told me that's impossible. I said, okay, fine. So I took the book apart. I took the staples out, folded each page the right way, restapled it, took a picture, and I said, and it laid perfectly flat. And I was like, it's not impossible. You just have to do it the right way.
Right.
They didn't really like that, but it is what it is.
I mean, being proven that they're wrong. I mean, yeah, I can understand them being a little salty about that, but I mean, hey, know what you're doing, understand the process.
Yeah, it's like I'm tired of people who don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what it really boils down to. You could say it's time saving, it's cost saving. You could say all that stuff. What it is you don't care.
Right.
Because if you're a printer and you cared and you wanted to make the best looking thing as you could possibly do,
yep,
you'll incorporate, if it's a cost saving measure, incorporate that cost into what you're doing. Maybe it's like 5 cents more a book. I'd rather pay like 5 cents more a book for a book that looks great.
Yes.
And it properly is folded, it lays flat, all that stuff. Then like settle on saving the 5 cents. Let's say you get 100 printed. Oh boy, I saved $5 and my book looks like a like a mess.
Right.
I'm so glad I saved that $5. Instead the printer could do it the right way.
Yeah.
And they don't wanna. So instead they and I've had this conversation with printers before, because they don't know that I'm a degreed graphic designer. I've been making comics for pretty much 20 years.
Yep.
I've worked with multiple printers of all kinds. And, they just want to tell you like, nope, can't do it. That's just how it is. And it's like, you just told the wrong dude that.
Right.
You
don't know who you're talking to, do you?
So, it's one thing, like if they say, oh yeah, we know that there's a way to do it. We just can't do it. That's fine.
Romy?
But when they go back and they say like, no, that's how it is for everybody. You get a book digitally printed. That's always how it's going to look. It's always going to do that. There's no way to get rid of that. That's just how it is. And I was like, I just call bullshit on it, because it is bullshit. And the fact that they're doing that, obviously, if they're doing it to me, they're doing it to everybody else. That's not cool. It's like, just do it the right way. That's it.
Feeding people a lie, gaslighting them into thinking that this is just how it's done when it's not, and yeah, Screaming Raven says, damn, Peter, you had to school them, didn't you? Yes, he did. And he's been doing that for a while, Pete knows his stuff. And I just learned about the long grain and short grain of the paper, but I've always come across like paper not folding correctly. Why do I have to really work to get this piece of paper to fold? That makes a lot more sense. So I just learned something tonight.
Yeah. Yeah. And
so
it's part of it though, but
yeah,
these are the things, the ins and outs of it. If you're going to have a print shop, because the average person, if they don't know that, that's fine. They're not necessarily, maybe, like, I'm not going to say they're not supposed to know that, but it's not their job to know that. If you're going to pay like some of these print on demand type places are so expensive, and if you're going to charge people a premium for this stuff, give them something that's great. Don't have all of these things in there and then cough them up a load of bullshit that's like, oh well, there's limitations to it, because of course there's certain limitations to things, but this is a very basic thing. And so when they do that and they just kind of want to insult your intelligence, or maybe they don't know, but they should know. It's their job to know. Yeah. So it's that kind of stuff that really irritates me, because I don't mind that, I didn't come at them at first being pissed off about it. I was more just like, oh, just so you know, this, that, and what. I had a couple other problems too with the print run. And I was just like, just so you know, this and that, whatever. And, is there a way? And I asked them first. I said, is there a way that I can flatten the spine? Because I knew how to do it, but it would involve destapling and restapling.
Right.
And I didn't want to necessarily do that to the whole run.
Right.
And then they told me, no, that's impossible. You can't do it. They just print that way. That's how it is with every digital printer. And when they did that, that really pissed me off. And that's when I took apart a book and I showed them. I'm like, okay, it is possible. Maybe it's not possible now without me doing it this way.
Right.
But I shouldn't have had to do it this way if you guys did your damn job right.
Right. Fold them correctly the first time. That way, you don't have to go back and do it again.
Because even if they did it all by hand, you're probably talking about, for like a run of 100, you're probably talking about an extra hour of work.
Right.
Like, okay. Like, I mean, bill
if
me.
You're providing your customer with a
dude.
better product, then I mean that's worth it,
So like, fine, like Joe over there needs to fold it for an hour. Okay, what's he making? 20, 25 an hour? I'll pay him $25. Have him fold it proper. Can I get my books looking fine now?
Yeah.
It's like, it's that kind of thing of. But if they're a print shop, and one of the mini goals on the campaign, the fourth mini goal at 12,500 is to purchase an automatic paper folding machine. Like, I worked at print shops and sign shops and copy centers and stuff before I did comic book stuff. This was years ago, like 20 something years ago. But so if you're a print shop, a dedicated print shop, you need that machine. It's gonna help you. It's expensive. It's like $2,000, but it's gonna help you to get the job done really quickly on a high volume amount of orders. So if like this particular shop or many others like them don't have an automatic paper folding machine, that's insane to me. If you're just going to let the machine, process everything, and then, like they print it, and then you're going to just assemble it, and then you're just going to fold it, and it's just going to look like, a hot mess.
Yeah.
Just get the proper equipment. It's out there.
Yeah.
I don't know. But to me, like that is something that is paramount. Like, you need to have that kind of a thing. And if you're not going to get that kind of machine, then you got to fold them by hand. They make like manual, like I got a manual creaser machine now. That was part of the third mini goal. And that's like $150. But that's just in case we don't reach the fourth mini goal. And it's also in case that machine were to break down at any point. I can still have a machine that, instead of doing like a 20 times the output of what I could do, it'll do like 4 times the output of what I could do.
Right.
So it's, it's still a vital piece of backup equipment, even if I end up getting that automatic paper folding machine. But it's one of those things, you need to have it. You just do. It's like saying that you want to save money you want to save a couple $100 and get this other printer because the other printer is a little more expensive. Like, what are you doing? Don't bother then. Get the best that you could possibly afford, and that's going to handle the workload that you need it to handle. And if you're a dedicated print shop, you got to get the best kind of stuff that you could possibly get. And if you're literally talking about a difference of a couple $100 or $1,000 or something, to make something that is beautiful and professional and the quality is there, as opposed to it just not being there.
Yeah,
that's a very little cost. You're talking about maybe like 2 or 3 print runs, maybe 1, depending on who comes through and gets a print run. That's absurd to say that that's a bridge too far. To get that to get it looking great is we'd rather skimp on that.
It's like cutting off your nose to spite your face. Like,
it really is. Like,
spend the extra money.
You're already making the comic. You're already doing what you got to do. You got the paper, you got the ink, you got the machines, you got everything you need. But then you're just gonna not. It's like making a wonderful recipe, and you just, I'll just leave this one thing out. But that one thing is such a vital ingredient that you might as well not even bake that thing or made that thing to begin with.
It's like running a race and getting like, maybe 10 feet from the finish line and like kicking your shoes off and sitting down, just giving up.
The metaphors are endless,
Right. I taking pride in what you're creating, especially print shops. Like, people are getting stuff printed because they, it's not just disposable stuff. I mean, especially when it comes to comic book printing, these are going into people's collections.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. All I could think too is like, if like when I'm going to be printing other people's work for them, I don't care, what the job looks like or who's printing it. It's kind of cool just knowing that it's going to get out there. Now, what if this book was to become like part of pop culture,
right?
Part of history.
Yeah.
And I had printed it. You know what I mean? Like that's crazy. And printers need to have that sense of pride of ownership and pride of cooperation.
Agreed.
Because they're the ones that are helping to make this thing and facilitate it into reality. So it's really weird when printers just kind of act like, yeah, whatever, we just print it, who cares?
Right.
I've received crowdfunded books too, where, and I don't know if you have, but I've received them this way, where like they've been pixelated because the printer just didn't care. They're like, well, whatever. They didn't give us print ready files. Those are the files they gave us. Who cares?
Right. It's just, that's on them. That's not our fault. Well, I mean, are you a professional print shop or not? Like, don't you have people on site that can look at this and say, hey, this is not going to print properly? Maybe reach out to the person that's paying you all this money to get it printed.
And there's a lot of great printers out there who will cover you. They got your back and they're going to do a great job. And I've had more great experiences than not when it comes to that. But for some reason, and I don't know if it's like a comic printer thing, like comic printers that seem to want to specialize, like print on demand printers that want to specialize in comics, for some reason, more often than not, they tend to have this attitude that is sort of like, take it or leave it, that's what we can make you, and that's horrible, because again, like we said, you're getting a comic, we hope people cherish the comics, we hope that they really enjoy them, and we want them to come out as good as they possibly can, and you don't know what future this comic could possibly have.
100%, man.
If you're the person that made that, the printer that made that, like that's pretty awesome. And instead, like, it just seems like, oh, it's just another job, who cares?
Right. Well, that you're not taking pride in what you do at that point. You're just doing it because, I don't know, that's your job. Taking pride in what you make, being proud of the work that you do, I think is something that's crucial, especially in creative industries like this.
Yeah.
A lot of that seems to be lost.
Yeah, and it really is like this. I don't know. There's kind of an attitude, I guess, that permeates a lot of different things with that, and it's, again, like I said, it's definitely not the majority from what I've seen, but there's enough bad apples that are spoiling the batch, and it's unfortunate sometimes when that happens, because all you need to do is come across one of these printers or whatever it may be, and that sours the experience for you, and maybe you just don't make comics anymore in general. There's all kinds of different things that happen. There's a lot of obstacles in front of you to making this kind of endeavor come true. And that's what I'm trying to make it a bit easier for people, that they don't have to worry as much about getting the printing done right. The price is hopefully, really good for them. And again, this is really tailored for the indie creator that needs 200 or less of their book and wants it to look great and doesn't want to have to worry about it, or even worse sometimes. And this happened to me a lot with commercial printers. They'll ship you the comics and damages occur during shipping because of how it's packed.
Yeah.
And like, as you saw, like when I sent that to you, like I got it in a bubble mailer with the cardboard, with the plastic inside the sturdy mailer. It's like,
they all showed up pristine and beautiful.
Yeah. So when I ship like comic orders out, I'll be putting them in boxes within boxes.
Right.
So they'll be in technically 2 boxes, and they'll have packing material around it, so nothing's going to move. Ace Ventura can come along and kick this thing down the road, and the book will survive. So, and that's how I'm going to pack them when I ship these things out. There's a lot of printers that sometimes they'll put, I don't know why they do this, they'll put like the comics to the corner of a box, and that's like the last place you want to put them, is like right up against the corner of the box. That's
Yeah.
like the impact zone is like you're facing it right there. You know,
That's like a surefire way to damage every single one of those corners or edges that's right there.
oh yeah, yeah. So
Working
you
at
know,
the comic shop, I saw that so often with stuff that we would get in, and I'm not gonna call anybody out, but what's up, Morb? Good to see you, man. He says, "Hey guys, love you, Pete. Wear my alternate beanie every winter and have over 100 comics from you." There you go,
awesome.
man.
That's great.
Heck yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you know, there's a lot of stuff that has gone into this, and a lot of experience. And like you said, I'm one of the only people in modern comic industry times that's been working on newsprint consistently for years now. So I'm aware of what it's capable of and what it isn't.
Yeah.
And I'm getting such terrific results. Like, I have to share this with you too. This is a printout of, so here's the first page of the King Cryptid. This is the commercially printed one of King Cryptid number 5. All right, so that's how it printed, and then this is what we did.
Ooh.
Now you'll notice right off the bat what we did. Like, you can see the art is a lot crisper.
Yeah.
And you can just, at a first glance, like, this printed a little too dark. It
Yeah.
muddied up a little bit, but this, it printed incredibly. Now I'll show you just the on screen. Hopefully it focuses. So this is what I printed here for a test print.
Man, like, I could tell the difference immediately as soon as you brought up what you printed in house. The colors looked appropriate. They looked you could see the subtlety in it.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, you know, this is, when you print on newsprint, you kind of accept a lot of this is just kind of how it is, you know. So
Right.
it still looks good, but you know, there's things about it that you're like, all right, you know, you make a concession here and there, and
Right.
that's about it.
There,
You know, so
there's a certain amount of fuzziness though on that one.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, the side-by-side comparison is almost night and day looking at them.
Yeah. So you get a lot more
Wow.
detail and clarity from what we're printing as opposed to the commercially printed version. And that's because of the fact of how, again, speed is paramount. So when you get the process going, you'll get like a little slight misregistering with the plates.
Right.
Whereas, you know, the quality is the focus on what I'm doing. So the misregistering never occurs. So it's always crisp and clear.
Yeah. That's fantastic. And I'm so excited to see what you're going to do in the future with this, man. I mean, this is just the beginning of something amazing, man. You know, maybe you're going to be at the forefront of a renaissance of newsprint comic making again, man.
Well, that would be
you've
great.
been doing this for a while.
Yeah, and that would be great too, because maybe people see this and go, "Look at this guy. He looks like an idiot. If he could do it, I could do it." You know.
Right? I mean, if this guy could do it, I can do it too. Or,
Yeah.
They can just, pay you to do it.
Exactly. You know, so if you're not in the ability to have the space or the time or whatever it is, the money to get something like this set up, you can have me do the short run printing for you. But if you want to do this yourself and get a really good, like a high end printer, it'll cost you a couple $1,000s or less.
Right.
And, you can get smaller versions of the things to trim. You don't have to get like, these industrial level, cuts like 500 pieces of paper in one shot kind of things. If you're only going to make like 100 copies of your comic in a year, you can still do this, and you can still make this possible for you and print very high end comics for a relatively small investment, smaller than just a fraction of what I have on here. The reason that I have the goal set at what it is because I need to scale this. So, I need the multiple printers. I need the commercial grade level, everything else to really scale the production. Because there's so many things that I need to print, but then I also want to print books for a lot of other people too. So that's my goal in doing it. And then you need all the paper and all the ink, and you need all the different supplies, and you need to purchase things in bulk.
Yes.
To get that pricing to stay there. I want to have that pricing stay there for as long as I possibly can. And that's the whole point of this campaign. But somebody, maybe they see this and they're inspired by, seeing what I'm doing and go like, shit, maybe I could do this. Maybe I could just do it for my comic. Maybe they're out there and they're watching and they're like, okay, if I do the research, look into all this stuff, and And I'll just tell you, I can't give you everything I use because there's crazy people out there who've always tried to make life hell for me because I'm always trying to push the envelope and what can be done in comics. I don't need people contacting companies and being like, make up some story about me and then say, you should put out a statement, and then the way the world is now, that's crazy enough to happen.
Yeah.
So I can't give you like exactly who I'm using, but I can tell you, there's a lot of stuff out there. It's easy to just look up and do the research. And when you want to assemble the comic, you want to make sure you print it, then you fold each page individually, then you assemble it in the right order, and then you staple it, and then you trim it. And you have to do those steps, and then you'll make a great looking comic, and it'll come out looking nice. And then everything else I talked about, like the grain of the paper and all that other kind of stuff, you'll do a lot of research along the way, and you'll learn a lot if you really want to go down this road. But if you don't want to do any of that and you just want to send me a properly prepared file, I'll print your comic for you. So it's.
Look at this pricing breakdown, you guys. Like, and if you've done any kind of research at all, like even minimal research on getting stuff printed, like these are fantastic prices. I mean, look at the price for a 48-page book, 48 pages of comic book. These are
200
fantastic.
Copies for $372 full color.
That is insane. You're not gonna find that price anywhere.
If you do a 24-pager. Yeah, if you do a 24-page comic, $206 for a full color book, 200 copies.
These are fantastic prices, man.
Yeah,
seriously,
it's crazy. Yeah, if you know what the prices look like for that kind of run right now, especially in full color, like you'll be blown away because some of these prices are like half the price of a lot of the other players out there.
I just got a sketchbook. I put together a sketchbook of my artwork for Heroes Con, and I got it printed from an online place where I uploaded my file, and it was only 20 pages, full color, and then covers. But I mean, it was double what this is easily per issue. Yeah. And I have no idea what the quality is going to be like. I'm hoping that it turns out good. I mean, the digital proof looked good, but I mean, my files were high quality and I set them up correctly.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I've had them send me back digital proofs that looked fine. Yeah. And then I'm like, why did you jack up my files when you went to print them? Like things look wrong. And they're like, well, we can't guarantee how. I'm like, that's what the proof is. The proof is a guarantee that things look good. That what I saw on screen is represented.
You're missing the point of a proof, folks.
And they're like trying to say, well, the color shifts and this now. Like, I'm not even talking about the colors. I'm talking about what did you do to my text? Like, you rasterized and pixelated all my text. And I was like, but the proof showed it to still be embedded into the file. And they're like, oh, well, it doesn't print really that way on this type of paper stock. And I'm like, well, the paper sample that you sent me has that exact paper stock, and it has text printed really great. So you just told me that on that paper stock, that's impossible to be done. But meanwhile, I have the paper stock of samples that I got from you, and it says that it can be done.
There's a disconnect here. What's happening?
There's like a weird moving instead of just being like, we effed up. Would you like a refund? Would you like a reprint? What could we do to make this right? Instead of handling it like that, it turns into like this kind of weird. Here's an excuse. Oh, that one didn't work. Shit, they know. Here's another excuse. Oh shit, this guy really knows his stuff. Here's a fourth excuse, and then eventually they'll tell me like, oh, it's either we printed this. The paper sampler was printed on a really good printer, and on this one we printed it on the printer that's not as high resolution. And I told them back. I said, so you printed my book on an inferior printer? And they said it's not inferior. I was like, look, this is what
literally
words
just
mean.
said that.
When you tell me that this one thing is better than this other thing, the thing that is not as good as the other thing is inferior.
Yes.
Like that's what words are.
That's what it means. Like this is how language works. Are you not familiar?
Yeah. It isn't like, a moral referendum on the printer and being like, there's a bad printer. This is like that printer is not as good as this printer.
It doesn't do as high a quality. That's the whole point of what I'm saying here. Are you following me now?
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, I didn't get charged the appropriate level to have it printed on the crappy printer.
Right.
If you cut your price in half, maybe I would have been like, all right, it's on the crappy printer. But when you charge me for the full premium price, and then you put it on the crappy printer.
Right.
Kind of like, there's something wrong here.
Right. I mean, you gotta be honest with people. I mean, that's comes back to the whole integrity thing, taking pride in what you're doing, what you're making, and having the professionalism and the integrity to be like, okay, yeah, we screwed up, we'll make it right. I feel like there's a lot of that missing. Nobody wants to take responsibility for fucking up. And in business, that's bad. That's bad business. You're not taking care of your customers, and in turn, that keeps other people from being able to take care of their customers properly. So it's a domino effect of bullshit.
100%. Yeah, and especially when the problem starts at like the production supply side.
Yes.
It'll cascade into every other aspect of it. Whether that's the quality of it, the pricing of it, whatever it is, it's all going to run throughout the course, and the end result is the customer pays, or in this case, maybe doesn't pay.
Yeah.
Which results in eventually the supplier / production part of it doesn't get work because the person getting that thing made is no longer in business because they can't sell their product because of shoddy production. So it's like it trickles through. And they treat it like not my problem, but it's like, no, it totally is your problem if you want to actually still stay in business, because if you keep doing that, you won't have any more customers left because you'll have put them all out of business because they can't operate anymore.
Yeah. If they can't provide a quality product to their customers, what's going to make the customer come back? And they need those customers in order to keep going, to stay in business. I mean, if you as a printer, a print shop, provide a quality product to your customers who are in turn providing that said product to their customers, then that's the cycle of business. It's the cycle of good business. It allows everybody to keep making money, and you have happy customers. And you know what? Happy customers tell their friends about this cool thing that they got from this person. And that in turn makes this person be able to go back to the printer and buy more of that thing, so that they can then serve their customers. It's funny how that works.
Yeah, and it's so unfortunate. Yeah, but it's like there's so many problems with the comic industry, and we'll just stick to that aspect of it. But there's so many problems in the comic industry with various segments of it along the way, where everyone feels like they're passing the buck, and there's no one that wants to take ownership and be like, we messed up, and if anything, like we've all been in a position where we've messed up. So it's far more relatable when someone's like, man, I messed up, I'm sorry. Because we've all been there. We all know what it's like to disappoint someone, to mess up on something, to fall short of what we expect for ourselves.
Yeah.
But when people, you're very obviously aware that they messed up and they don't want to admit it. Now that's the part that pisses most people off.
Yep. And pissed off people don't come back to buy more. They warn people to stay away from this person that pissed them off, or this company that pissed them off, and that company then loses money. It's the domino effect. It seems like the key is to take pride in what you're doing. Actually care about what you're making and the product that you're providing to people, and things will be much better from there.
Yeah,
and that's
absolutely,
and that's what you're doing, man.
And I'm doing my damnedest. I tell you, and it's been great with this experience because doing this for 19 years, I'm not necessarily used to things going right.
Well, I think you have put in the hard work. You've been in the trenches, and I think you're due for some good turnout, man. I think you're due for things going right. You've been providing quality products to people for a long time. You clearly know what you're talking about. You've done the research, you've put in the work, and you've consistently put in the work. So yeah, I'm saying that you are deserving of all the good that is about to come to you, my friend.
Yeah, well, I love passing it on. So that's the part that I'm excited about, is the fact that people are helping me to do this. It's just something that's just out of my grasp, and they're helping me to be able to do this. And I'm so grateful for that support. and I'm grateful to be able to turn that around and, you know, get their books made too, and make something possible for them. And maybe they can get more readers involved. Maybe, you know, more people are going to have comics on newsprint out there,
Yeah.
which was kind of like this thing that seems so unattainable for so many. And especially if you're doing like a run of 100 or 200, having a book on newsprint, you know, you're not even going to get probably a response back from most web press printers. If you're like, can I get 100 copies of my book? They're going to be like, what are you, crazy? Like, this thing spits out 100 copies in a minute. And by the time we shut the damn machine off, it'll be like 3,000 copies on the floor, you know?
Right.
So,
it's not even worth it for them to do that.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so hopefully this is a thing that makes a lot of comics possible for people. It makes a lot of creators think about things in a different way, and that it's actually something they could do and not have to, you know, make a comic and sell it for like $10 or $15. Maybe they could sell it for $5 or $6 or $7, and, you know, make a great looking limited edition newsprint comic. And just even the idea too with these vouchers, I want to say that they don't expire. So if you get this voucher and you want to print in 2 or 3 years, that won't expire, and you get locked into the pricing that's on the campaign. So even if the pricing goes up later on, you get the pricing that you saw on the campaign when you bought that voucher.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Wow. So if any of you out there are thinking about putting together a book and you want to do it on newsprint, and I mean you've seen the prices are fantastic, and you've been listening to Pete talk, you know that he's going to take good care of you. He's going to make sure you get the highest quality product possible. Jump on this now. Help the campaign. And I want to say how much I love the fact that you're doing this on Fund My Comic. I think this is the perfect place to have a campaign like this, because I love what Luke Stone has done with this website. You know, it's for comics, it's for, you know, games and comics and print media. It's a crowdfunding website built for nerds like us, you know, for us comic geeks. And I'm so thrilled that you're seeing so much success on this website. You know, it's two things that are helping this indie scene prosper and grow. You know, the crowdfunding website, Fund My Comic, and then now this with news printing. You know, I really do think this is the beginning of a renaissance of independent media. You know, we're seeing it in comics now. I mean, independent comics are blowing up. You know, and it's for reasons like this. You know, I think we're going to see that hopefully trickle into, you know, animation and video games and movies. You know, I want to see a rebirth of creativity in our media. I think we're in desperate need of creativity in media, of actual good stories being told again.
Oh yeah, and I think to be able to do that, you need the flexibility to control the production when you need to.
Yeah.
You know,
to be able to turn out things that are professional. You know,
yeah,
for the longest time we haven't been able to.
Yeah, and you'll see all kinds of advancements in tech with making movies and with recording music. You know, you can really just kind of do all of that on your own, as long as you can work your way around the stuff that's there.
Yeah.
But it is there. But with printing, up until just a couple of years ago, it really was like you got to buy, like, to make it professional, you got to buy like a $50,000 to $70,000 printer.
Yeah.
You got to get like tens of thousands of dollars of equipment, and you got to have the space to house it all. And most comic creators, especially in an industry where you got razor thin margins and usually in the negative, a lot of people are making books out of pocket and aren't really making any money, let alone breaking even. Getting into, you know, producing your own comic seems like it makes no sense. Let me just send it out to the printer and not worry about all the other stuff.
Right.
But hopefully this campaign also becomes like proof of concept that no, like the tide is slowly turning for tech in the favor of people who want to do this too.
Yes.
And with that, you know, you can see more of this creative explosion, because you don't have to rely on a printer necessarily to get a comic out there. Especially like we talked about before, we live in such strange times where Maybe someone doesn't agree with your views in life, or they're intimidated by what you're doing in a section of business, so they make up crap about you. But either way, it halts what you could do. You can't make
Yes.
a living. You can't pursue what you want to do and what you want to create, even if your creation has absolutely nothing to do with your political views or how you live your life or whatever
Right.
it may be. But now, like, this tech is at the disposal of all of us to be able to, with research and a little bit of time experimenting with it, you can get something that looks fantastic, and you could do it
Yep.
professionally, and you don't have to worry about someone shutting you down. And that's tremendous, to be
Freedom
able
of
to do
speech,
that.
freedom of expression, and freedom to create the stuff that you want to create. Absolutely. Hey, Isaac,
yeah.
what's going on, man? Good to see you. It's a friend I met at Jacksonville conventions here in Florida.
Oh, awesome.
Another independent creator doing his thing, making books for people, delivering high quality products to the customers, man. That's what we're all about.
Hell yeah. Yeah.
It's
And
fantastic.
yeah, so I'm hoping to see that maybe who knows, this will inspire people to also create their own stuff like this, because it is possible now. Like a couple of years ago, it really wasn't. Like
That's true.
to do it in a way that made sense economically and time wise. Like things have changed with the tech over the past, I'd say maybe 4 to 5 years at the most. And now that time has passed, there's a good window of looking at it and going, okay, I don't want to be a first adopter, because you never know what's going to go wrong and you pay the most for it, right?
Right.
But now, like, everybody else has kind of had the stuff, it's been around for a bit. You can look at all the research, all the data, people have their reviews, all this kind of stuff, and you can make a more informed decision. And that's now where I'm finding myself. So
That's
seriously,
so exciting, man.
It really, really is. And I can't even imagine at this point what it's going to be like maybe another 5 years down the road,
right?
In terms of what could be capable to get this stuff made. So, there's a lot of upside to this kind of stuff. And, if you're out there, again, if you don't have the space, if you don't have the inclination to learn how to do this, that's what I'm there for.
Yeah.
You can still just participate in the campaign and check it out. And if you're someone that doesn't want to necessarily put a comic out, but you want to support the idea of this project, you
There's
can
a
purchase
t-shirt
a
right here.
t-shirt. Yeah, we got a t-shirts or comics are better on newsprint. I agree with that. When the shirts are in, I'm going to wear that shirt. Anyone who buys this shirt most likely agrees with that. And there's also a bumper sticker. This is keep your distance. I like to sniff old comics.
I mean, I like to sniff new comics too.
So that's $30. Man. You get a bumper sticker and a shirt. But I've got like some sketch cards on there too. If you want to get some art from me, that's the only place you're going to get art from me this year. That's at the 35 mark.
Right here.
And then,
and I mean, look at these badass sketch cards. I mean, come on. Yeah.
So you can get any character you want, and I'll draw that up for you. And then we got smaller goals too. You can get the sampler books. I'll sign those on the campaign. That's the only way I'm going to ever sign them, is just on the campaign. And you get the full size and the mini. And then if you want, and you are someone who makes your own book, you can get that proof copy. You can get both the mini and the standard size. And it's $25. You can get your own comic printed out, just one copy each size. And then you can see what your comic looks like when it's printed. Maybe you're going to use that towards a print run and get an idea before you dive in. Or you can just get one of them made, and whatever you do with it, whether you keep it, sell it, whatever, it's up to you. But that's a way to support the campaign too. So there's a lot of stuff on here. Just I'm so grateful for people spreading the word and supporting this thing. We just reached the $11,000 mark today. Like if you refresh, actually, it'll pop up.
Let's do it.
So we just got past the $11,000 mark earlier today, and I'm really grateful that we're coming along so far here. It's a $15,000 overall goal.
That's fantastic.
But we're 73% of the way there. 18 days left. It's looking pretty good. I think we could reach that $15,000 goal.
I think you're going to do it. I think you're going to do it. And like I said, this is so exciting. There's so many ways for everybody to help out this campaign. Like you were just talking about the different tiers here. But I mean, I just want to point out again, for anybody that's done any kind of research on getting books printed, You know, whether it's a mini comic, you know, the old ash can size, or a full size comic, you know, these prices are phenomenal. And you've seen the quality, you know, and you can go look at the campaign and you can see the quality. Like going down here to the words, like the text box, they're so crisp and clean. It's fantastic. So you're going to get the quality that you need, and at, you know, great prices. So, you know, jump on this now. Help Pete. Help yourself. You know, help
me
independent
help
comics. Right? Like support
that really
support
is, like,
indie comics on newsprint.
that really is the central focus of the campaign, is helping me to help others, or yourself if you're someone who's a creator looking to get your print run made. You know, I'm trying to show as many test prints and test books as I possibly can. Like I said, I'm already starting to print the Blood Realm 15 to 18. Those are going to be the first Alterna books printed this way. And I'm getting those covers back from the printer next week. I'm just going to go over there, pick them. They're like an hour away from me. And so once I get the covers back, I can start assembling everything. And, you know, that's going to be fun. And if any, I love that part of it. I love like the hands-on kind of, you know, assembling everything. It gets me onto the computer screen, you know, gets me moving, you know. So I love that idea of it. Like I've seen some people feel bad for me, that they're like, oh, that's a lot of labor and stuff involved. I'm like, I'm not building a car here, you know. I'm putting together some comics. Like,
you're not slaving away out in the hot sun. You're not roofing for the summer. I don't know if you've ever had the displeasure of doing that.
So many more jobs that are far more difficult and labor intensive than me, you know, sitting in a room or something, waiting for the printer to spit some stuff out as I work on art and then assembling books. Like if you told me when I was 5 years old, you're going to put comics together for the rest of your life, I'd be like, you kidding me? That's amazing.
Right?
You know, so it's like I'm looking forward to, like, every time, even these little test sample books when I put them together, it's so cool, like to see them when they're all trimmed and finished. Like, they go from being these kind of strange looking, you know, you really messed up here sort of things, to looking really nice, and they become a comic book. You know, they get that perfect little size with like the nice corners and the nice, you know, trim to them, and it's like, wow, it's a comic all of a sudden. You know, it's magical.
It is magical, man. Like I said at the beginning, comics are alchemy, and that goes from the script to the artwork to the coloring to the lettering to the production values to the way they're put together. All of it has to come together in this beautiful, you know, final product that looks professional, feels good in the hand, is fun to read. I mean, it is magic. It absolutely is, and it's a beautiful type of magic, my favorite kind.
Absolutely, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
So everybody, thank you guys for supporting the campaign, spreading the word, and all that good stuff. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely, they are. An equivalent exchange is relevant to them. I agree, man. I agree. And you know, I am sure you guys can tell, listening to Pete, how much he loves this and how much this means to him. So that goes for all the books that he does with Alterna, and now it's going to go into the printing that he does for Alterna. So you can back this campaign with confidence, you know, and like you said, even if you're not ready to buy get a print run of books right now, you can get one of these vouchers and save it for, you know, when you're ready. Or if you just want to get a t-shirt or, you know, sketch cards or something like that to help this dream come to fruition, jump on this, please. Hit the link in the description of this video, and while you're at it, go ahead and check out everything he's got at Alterna Comics, at alternacomics.com, because there's fantastic stuff there, something for everybody on the website. Well, we've been going for about an hour and 45 minutes, man. The time just flew by, but I knew it was going to.
Supposed to go. I'm sorry.
I mean, I usually aim for about an hour, but man, when you and I hang out and we get to talking, man, I just let the conversation go where it goes. You know, I think we had a lot of great information come out in this conversation. I think I learned a lot about paper and the production of a comic in this conversation, and I hope everybody else did as well. So yeah, I'm never worried about the time when it comes to, you know, hanging out with you, man. You know, the conversation always just makes the time fly by, you know. So
awesome.
Thank you for coming to hang out, man. This is
thank
fantastic.
You for having me, man.
Always, man. You know, you're always welcome on the channel to come hang out and talk about what you got going on. This is exciting. This is just ridiculously exciting, just because, you know, the level of quality that you're going to bring to newsprint that seems to be sorely lacking because nobody seems to want to do newsprint anymore.
It's kind of a lost art, you know.
It really is. Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you. And it's been great to watch. Well, thank you guys all so much for coming to hang out. I really appreciate it. Go over to Fund My Comic, check the link out, and go watch the videos that he's got about the production of these books. And you will see the care that he's taking when it comes to making these. And again, check out those prices because they can't be beat. They can't. But I want to thank you all so much for watching. Pete, always a pleasure, man. Thank you for coming to hang out. And guys, we will see you next time. Later.
Thanks, guys.
Seems that envy is my sin.
Oh, what's in the box? What's in the fucking box?